From shadow people roaming the upper floors, bar stools moving on their own, and spirits witnessed around the spiral staircase, today's haunted location has plenty of dark history attached to it, making it a truly fascinating property, and one that has left many of the millions who visit each year terrified. Hey there, dissectors, and welcome to another haunted location. Today we're delving into the paranormal and often dark history of the Old Washoe Club in Nevada. This was a place that rich and powerful men came to wallow in their success, being treated like royalty with drinks, games rooms, a ballroom, and of course, ladies who would do whatever these men wanted. After all, this was all about power, and these men had it in spades. As you venture into Virginia City in Nevada, one thing will truly strike you. It's almost like stepping back in time and entering a Wild West movie set. Even though there are many buildings to look at, one property that truly grabs your attention is the Old Washoe Club. This property has seen it all. It's covered in murder, suicide and abuse, and that's just scratching the surface. Within months of originally opening in 1875, a vicious fire tore through Virginia City, destroying almost everything it touched, including the club. Because the local mines were turning in some hefty profits, the area was quickly rebuilt, and the Washoe Club was relocated to the floors above a popular tavern in 1876. And it didn't take long for it to become one of the most exclusive social clubs in the area, eventually gaining the name the Millionaire's Club. The success of the Comstock Lode silver in the region kept money flowing, and many powerful people came to visit the club, including Ulysses S. Grant and Edwin Booth, to name just a couple. But like many things, the good times don't last for long, and by 1897 the club was dissolved after silver resources began to wane as well as its value and the expense of the many mining fires. But the ever-growing popularity of Western-themed movies in the 1950s helped to keep Virginia City alive, as it brought many tourists to the region, and then the town was declared a National Historic Landmark. This brought about much needed funding for the restoration of many properties there, and nowadays you can explore the Old Washoe Club's abandoned spaces above the tavern. But it seems many who have visited have gotten more than they bargained for as they came face to face with the Washoe Club's past. There were many people who met a violent end at the club, which many believe causes them to feel frustrated at the way their lives ended. They don't want to be dead or feel angered at the treatment they suffered, but sadly these feelings leave them wandering the earth with the living, and often this leads to violence or mischief. While the club was still in operation, prostitutes were offered as one of the many perks. There is a spiral staircase inside the property, and when the club was very much alive with its dubious goings-on, it was used as a discreet entrance to visit one of the many ladies residing there. Now, it's not clear whether the ladies were paid for their services or just offered room and board as payment. Either way, what they went through was terrible. You see, these men could treat the ladies however they wanted, and if something terrible happened, like, I don't know, murder for example, these men could easily get away with it. I mean, think about it. Who was society back then going to believe? A prostitute who society scorned, or a successful businessman? One such prostitute is thought to be named Lena and was brutally murdered in one of the third-floor rooms during the 1870s. Described as a young woman with blonde hair who wears a blue dress, visitors and staff have seen her spirit hanging around the top of the spiral staircase, almost as if she's waiting for a customer to arrive. In life, it seems that one of the members of the club possibly became too attached to the young lady and in a jealous rage strangled her, maybe in a desperate attempt to forget her death. This poor woman is now living out her afterlife as if she was alive, forever waiting to offer her services to the long dead. But as I said earlier, many of these men who did unforgivable acts would get away with it, unless, of course, they were overwhelmed with remorse afterwards. It's believed that the man who ended poor Lena's life was consumed with guilt afterwards, and after deciding he couldn't bear the grief he now felt, ended his own life on the second floor, possibly by overdose. His spirit is often seen as a shadow figure around the upper floors, and is believed to dislike the living, especially mediums and paranormal investigators. He wants to be left alone, hidden away in the shadows of this property, and has apparently confirmed this on EVP. You might wonder though, why? Well, investigators think that he's afraid of what awaits him in the afterlife, possibly a religious man in life who fears he will take a trip into hell if he crosses over. In amongst the sleazy side of the club, there are also spirits of children. Now, one of the children who is said to hang around the basement is thought to have been killed at the hands of a predator. while others died from disease or other forms of abuse. Another one of these children is described as wearing a tattered white dress, who is thought to have tragically died after being struck by a runaway horse and buggy outside the club. Described as being painfully shy, her spirit has been witnessed looking down over the stairwell, which must be quite alarming for anyone walking up the stairs. But even though she's thought to be quite skittish around people, many visitors have described a sensation of being touched or grabbed at by small hands in this area. Maybe the child is seeking out comfort, the type she never felt while alive. In fact, there is a doll still inside the Washoe Club that is thought to have belonged to one of the long dead children that had the misfortune to live there. Called Annabelle, which makes perfect sense for such a creepy toy, right? It can be found sitting in a small rocking chair and moves on its own accord. The child who owned it is believed to have died in an explosion, and the doll moves when the youngster still plays with it. And a little boy named Peter can be found hiding inside a closet on the 3rd floor. In life, this poor child is thought to have died by parental abuse and could explain why even in death he's hiding, still terrified of receiving more brutal treatment. Now, I'm sure you can imagine that there were plenty of deaths back then, and when the winter months came along, burying the dead could be a real hassle, especially as the ground would become hard from icy conditions. So what could be better than putting the bodies on ice, so to speak? And in the Old Washoe Club, you'll find an area called the Crypt. Here they stored bodies within the club, waiting for the warmer months to come along so that it could be officially put to rest. But as you can imagine, many spirits may have found this unsettling and so couldn't move on. People have described an unnatural chill, feelings of being watched from the corners of the room, and a sense of lightheadedness. There have also been reports of large orbs flying around the room. Can you imagine that though? Coming for a drink or a game of cards and dead bodies being close by? Quite unnerving. But one of the many men who travelled through the tavern and enjoyed a drink or three is still experiencing the hospitality of the place. His spirit is believed to be quite mischievous, as he will move bar stools, even knocking them down when he feels the urge. Ever the gentleman, he has also been reported to hold the swinging doors open for visiting women. What a charmer. But the more amusing side of this spirit's character is that he still loves to party. It's said that he still loves a good shot of bourbon, and visitors and staff have seen shots being moved across the bar by unseen hands. And if left long enough, the bourbon will suddenly appear to have been drunk. On a sadder note though, this area also contains the spirit of a bartender who ended his own life by a gunshot after he was informed that his teenage son had fallen to his death in an abandoned mine shaft. What do you think about this haunted location? Do you believe that the dead really do still haunt the Old Washoe Club? Or maybe you feel that there is more legend to the stories than truth? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Nowadays, the property has embraced its paranormal history, and if you visit, can find signature cocktails in the bar called things like Ghost Iced Tea, the Flaming Orb, as well as Blue Lady. This really is a fascinating place to visit, and not just for the chance to see the spirits yourself with a ghost tour, but it also gives you a glance back in time at the Old West. Have you visited this location? And if so, did you experience anything out of the ordinary? Maybe a gentle tug on your arm, a shadow that seemed to follow you around, or maybe your drink went missing. I feel that this place is quite likely haunted, and with such a dark, sordid history attached to it, the spirits of the long dead certainly aren't resting anytime soon. So, until next time, my friends, stay safe out there.